Hello everybody and welcome to a very special edition of this week's live stream straight from AVA Studios. I'm Joe.
And I'm Zach.
And we are joined today with a very special guest.
Jim Weist from Clockwerk Industries.
This week's live stream is going to be a lot different as the focus is going to be specifically on PC modding. What is it? What does it involve? And everything that there is to detail the whole process from beginning to end. Now, Jim, why don't you go ahead and tell the viewers at home, who is Clockwerk Industries?
Clockwerk Industries is my computer modding company that has evolved from basically my hobby of computer modding. Started about almost 6 years ago now, just as a hobby. And then a couple years into it, I was making custom reservoirs and I started getting people asking, like, oh, can you make that for my computer? And basically from posting on forums like BitTech or OCN back then. And
so you were just doing very like customer specific designs.
It wasn't even that at that point. It was just me just making stuff, and then someone was like, I made a waterfall reservoir for one of my second, I think it was my second mod, and then someone was like, it caught the attention of a couple different people, and then before I could finish someone's custom reservoir, I had another one lined up and another one lined up, and it kind of just snowballed into what it is now. And 2 years ago, or maybe it's 4 years ago, I started the official business, and it's just been growing since then, and kind of evolving into more retail as well as still custom work.
That sounds pretty exciting, man.
Yeah, it is.
So would you say all those people coming to you asking for your products sort of inspired your brand to evolve?
Exactly, because when I started, I had no intention on starting a store or even offering services. I just knew that I started getting into CNC, and that's kind of what really blew everything up, because
I imagine
it was like a new obsession. So I started doing that, and then it opens up so many new doors, and that's where like some of the product development and stuff like that started building from there and continued to grow. It's still growing now. So
wow, dude, that's crazy. So like in conjunction with any of like the equipment that you actually use, like the physical equipment CNC, do you have the help of software to help you design these things prior?
There's 3D software. It's actually a good question, because there's Fusion 360, which is the software I use. You can do 3D modeling and you can program the CNC with that, and that software is free for anybody who's a hobbyist or enthusiast. If you have a business, once you make 100 grand a year, then you have to pay 40 bucks a month. But up until that point, it's free. So it's a really good software to get going with all of that.
That's chump change, though, once you're up to that point.
Exactly. You would gladly donate $40 a month once you're making 100
right.
grand. So they've helped me greatly. It would have been really hard to do what I'm doing without the help of that software. And then the laser has its own software. 3D printer has its own software. Each one are kind of a little bit proprietary, but the central focus of my design software is Fusion 360, and then I use Illustrator a lot for the laser.
Right. So why don't you go for the people that may not be aware of exactly of what it is? What would you consider your definition to be when people say modding?
I would say physically changing the case in some way or another. Okay. Not so much just slapping a sticker on it. I can't really consider that too much modding. Now, if you really went overboard and did some kind of like collage on it, I guess you could say so. But it would have to, I don't know, I think something has to flow right. Or most of the time, modding really started as like a performance-based thing. Like,
okay. So it was just the PC components.
Yeah, exactly. PC components and cases, like old cases that had, they were block cases with no holes in it for airflow. So people were boring, like Bill Owen from MMPC Tech back in the day, boring out new fan holes and stuff like that. That's where it kind of started, was getting more airflow. How much more performance can I get out of the air-cooled systems?
Right.
And then branching off into water cooling and stuff, and how can I adapt the case to fit the water cooling stuff? That's where it started for me. That's like
I had no idea that that's kind of where modding started, and that's something that I've always done to my PCs. And
a lot of people did, and they didn't even really know that that's all this was going on in the meantime. So,
right. I never considered myself a modder. It was just I want to stretch my dollar, man, as long as I can. Like I put thousands of dollars into this, and I don't like that temp. Make it better.
Right. I think the very first PC I ever built, I cut like a huge hole into the top of it because I had a 280 millimeter radiator, which like these were like extremely new at the time. So
was it a phobia radiator?
No, it was an NZXT AIO.
So okay.
Yeah, so like this was like extremely new at the time. Like 280 mil wasn't really a thing for AIO, so none of the cases supported it. So I think it was like a Thermaltake something 31. I can't remember the exact model, but I had that
V31.
V31. That's what it was.
I know that case.
Yeah, I had to take a Dremel and like gut the top half of it to get it to fit.
I kind of felt like that case if you like breathed heavily on it, it would just dent the side panel.
I mean, I got it for 30 bucks, so.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Some of those are the best cases, though. You start with something that barely looks like anything, and then you could, that's the beauty of modding. You can turn it into whatever you want. All you need is that blank canvas, and it's like artwork, you know?
Now, for some of the people that may not be aware, the PUBG system that we did for ASUS earlier this year, that was this man right here. So all the modifications you saw down to rusting out the tubes on it and
the vinyls.
The vinyl background that we added a panel to diffuse the LEDs, which was actually that man right here.
That was a really good idea. That looked great.
Yeah, it was great working together to put that out. I really like the end result.
Definitely.
Right, yeah. That was a collaboration between us and Clockwerk Industries to get that done. And the impressive thing about that I felt was amazing is it was all within like a very small timeline.
Yeah, that one was quick. We like 4 days or a weekend pretty much.
I think it was like 3.
And now
I think you dropped it off Friday and picked it up Monday or something like that.
It felt like I actually drove to pick it up.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say, that being said, how long do you typically spend modding systems to that degree?
It depends really what needs to be done. Something like that can get done that quick if everything else gets pushed back and, you know, it's top priority.
Right.
A lot of my systems that are custom mods can usually take like a couple months because they're just going on in the background, stuff like that. But if I need to rush something, I mean, I've had some jobs for like to get something to a trade show.
Right.
Couple weeks where like you finally, the last hardware trickles in and you got about 2 weeks to get the whole thing, you know, finished modding, crated up and sent out. So we've had quite a few systems go out like that real quick.
So again, I'll reiterate, something that some projects can typically take up to 2 months to do was done in 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
Super impressive in my book, man.
It all depends on what's required for the case too. Something that's super complex, there's almost no way you can get it done in that time frame. So and that's where the tools come into play. Having the CNC, having the laser, having machines that can help me get things done quicker has been the primary advantage of all that.
That's amazing. Take a break real quick from the Q&A. There's some questions. Michael Chadwick from Facebook says, hey guys, thinking of building my new PC. Well, if you have questions, feel free to PM us or you can send us a message on our site. And then Rudo on YouTube says, hey Jim, have you ever done any wooden cases?
I personally haven't done any wood cases, but I did do a wooden front panel for NVIDIA, their latest.
Really?
It's on their GeForce Garage. It's an in-wind case that it normally comes with a wooden thing, but it's like a real soft wood, so it got scratched up and dented really easily. So they wanted one that was a little more durable.
I think I've actually seen that one.
Yeah, it was just recent. It was just in the last like few weeks, I think, that they finally put the video up for it. And it's we did it out. I found a nice oak online, and I basically remachined the front panel, cut out all the IOs and everything like that, and that came out really nice. And there's a couple there are some other modders, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he specializes in all wood. I think it's Rich Voss, something like that. I can't remember his name, but he specializes in all wood builds, and they're like kind of like little showpieces to put on your desk. So I definitely have wanted to do like an all wood mod. There's a lot of cool options to go there.
Sure. No, so I mean, along with the work of working with a wooden system, then of course the PUBG system that he did, the kind of level of detail that goes into it.
Oh, there it is. Right there.
It is.
Yeah.
Right there. The kind of level of detail that you have to put into it is just absolutely insane. And focus, as I'm sure, because even like being PC builders like us, we already have to put a level of detail into everything we do to make sure that we keep in mind somebody that might want to upgrade their system in the future, or maybe that's going to be displayed on a desk open for people to see. We try to keep those things in mind. So then as a modder like Jim here, you have to keep even a greater attention to detail with the things that you do, and that's what I think helped attribute the way that you see the PUBG system displayed.
Definitely.
In my opinion.
Yeah, part of the fun with the PUBG system is like you have your plans of what you're gonna do, and then imminently with modding, your plans have to evolve because things don't always work quite how you want, and sometimes it's fun because you end up with like better ideas and it turns out better than you originally planned for it.
Right.
Yep. I've had mistakes turn out where the mistake, I'm glad it happened because I was able to go do a new workaround that a product will evolve out of it, or a whole new way of doing something with my cables or something. You know, I've had a couple different situations like that in systems where like I get upset and like, irritated because I work so hard to get this design to fit, and then it doesn't, and then I'm glad because I had to tear it all apart and start scratch, and then I end up coming up with something that's tenfold better.
Yeah. Now, do you have any products that you offer now that you feel are kind of a result of that? You go in creating one thing?
Definitely the panel mount combs, because I wanted a nice, clean way to route the cables up the back of my case. This was a Cypress build.
Or what you see right here. We have these acrylic panel mount combs, and we also have these aluminum knuckle combs, to which we are going to give away at the end of this live stream. All you have to do is comment on any of our social media channels, and you will enter for a chance to win aluminum knuckle combs and acrylic panel mounts, right? One will go to one person, one will go to the other. They'll be randomly selected using like an online number generator. That way there's no playing favorites and nothing was pre-selected. So be sure to send your questions and make comments, and you will be entered into the chance to win these on all of our streaming platforms. So YouTube, Twitch, what else we got? Facebook and Mixer. So just wanted to throw that plug in there real quick, sorry. And then it looks like we have quite a few more questions. So let's see what we got. We have A-clubs. One time I set my PC on the side, pulled the side panel off, set a box fan on it just to see how cool it would go on YouTube.
I've done stuff like that. I soldered together about 25 80mm fans and made an entire top panel out of them and glued them all together. That was like on the first case I ever modded. That was one of the first things I did to it.
We actually had,
I've definitely seen some crazy fan type cases on, like, you know, digging through forums like years back. Like, you'll see people that make cases out of fans.
Oh yeah, I've seen stuff like that.
I'm sure you've seen some too, Joe.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminded me of when we were at our original location. And we had our air conditioner go out for like a day or so in a hot summer. So we went into these big boxes in our warehouse, Jim, and we grabbed walls of just server grade fans that we had like as extra to service an account for replacements.
Right.
And we just started wiring four of them together with zip ties. And we just had walls of fans on everybody's desk.
I had 12 at my desk.
Oh my God.
Not playing.
No, it was just kind of like, oh man, this is sweltery.
We found the limitations of fan splitters with that, though. That's for sure. Yeah.
And USB power as it relates to those fan splitters. Some people didn't have, like, they didn't wire it to go to AC, so they were just plugging it into like their workstations. Someone even went as far as to include a fan controller. So it's like, all right, now it's too cool. All right, now I got.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
You know, so I mean, it got the job done.
That's how you know, ingenuity comes from, when you got to make something happen.
Sure. Yeah. A-Dubs from YouTube also asks how hard is it to learn to do hardline custom loops?
It's not.
That's really a question for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it just costs a couple bucks. Just buy up the the tubing and practice. I mean, it just takes practicing.
Yeah, I think the biggest barrier is the materials you get. So if you want to get into it, get extra and don't
definitely get extra.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend going straight for doing the bends for your PC, because when you're first learning, you need to learn what the material is going to do. So just take a piece, dedicate it to just putting a bunch of funky bends into it and seeing how it behaves. That's essentially what I did, and I learned how to do hardline after just messing with one tube.
That's all it takes.
No, I remember even, Zach, you were asking me, like, have you ever done it? Like, what does it involve when you wanted to start getting more involved? I said, dude, just start doing it. Like, I can show you, like, here's how I make a 90, but just do it.
Until you get your hands over the heat gun, you're not going to really know for yourself.
Right, and I remember one of the first builds Zach did for us, I don't know about what he had done prior, but what he did for us was actually a project I worked on, and it looked impeccable. And the system was actually used for trade shows, like 7 or 8 of them in conjunction.
Oh, wow.
Like all the way from the beginning of the year all the way to the end. And they just kept sending me photos of it, like in Atlanta, and then in LA, and Texas. It was crazy, and it looked just as good as when it did when it first left.
Yeah, it's a great thing about hardline too.
Right, and then my recommendation would be to anybody that wants to learn to do hardline, start on acrylic. If you can master acrylic, you can work with PETG.
It is way harder for acrylic, just because it's
awful.
It's such a it takes more heat, but you have to do it more cautiously, because if it gets too hot, it bubbles up and it's ruined right off the bat.
The window in which where you can bend the tube is much narrower.
Right.
It takes more patience because it has a higher heating point, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if you do get frustrated with acrylic, just go get PETG and you can bend it up in a
if you don't want to get that committed to perfecting the craft, PETG is very forgiving.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when we first started doing hardline tubes, acrylic was more common because there were fittings to accommodate the depth, the inner diameter and the outer diameter. And then after a while, when PETG started making way into the scenes, we jumped on the chance to try it. It was super easy. Super easy.
It's also great. I mean, a lot of people like the clarity of acrylic and how it looks and everything. A lot of people argue PETG versus acrylic, but I think they each have their place. And PETG is good for trade show builds because acrylic does have a tendency to crack from the vibrations, and you're heating up the acrylic, and doing that over and over again can make it crack while it's traveling in the crate.
Yeah, that was actually kind of a selling point for me, because I watched a video of somebody that had bent tubes and acrylic and PETG, and they had a hammer. And they start the video. They didn't start the video holding it, but it was laying on the table, and you're like, "What do you do with that hammer, man? Like, what's going on?" He was like, here's PETG, and it was just bouncing right off the tube. He's like, boing, boing.
Yeah, it's definitely durable.
The fun thing about PETG
Acrylic?
is you can
smack.
Yeah, you can do
shatters.
terrible things to your fitment. So you can make it fit like super tight, which is what I normally do because our systems get shipped.
Right.
And really jam it in there so it's forcing against the fittings.
Is that right?
Yeah. Just really jam it in there, Joe. But yeah, you can really force that stuff and flex it, and it's not going to break. It's a great material.
It's definitely forgiving to work with for sure.
That's a good word, forgiving. That's like the key. So I always like to learn the hard things first because then the easier things are a sweat. But
That's a good point.
Everybody's different. Go with the easy stuff first, baby step. That's how I learned to build PCs, was just the really simple things, like swapping out hard drives. Like, ID cables, master and the slave.
Wow.
And then so I just have to address the fact that I started laughing randomly in the middle of Jim's conversation because Rudo from Twitch decided to state that Shia LaBeouf will teach you how to do hardline bends.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, Rudo, really? Come on. So
Do it.
do it. Do it. Just do it. Just bend it. So the next we'll ask, which we kind of already, you went into that a little bit, but let's go a little bit more in depth. So you said that you started to get into Clockwerk Industries was the culmination of your interest, and your interest just kind of snowballed. So what got you into modding in the first place?
That's actually pretty good. Really, it was water cooling. I was gaming a lot. I was playing World of Warcraft a lot, some first-person shooters.
World of Warcraft, all right.
That game is, I mean, I played that for years, and I've I think I have over a year played time. It's kind of scary.
We got somebody that works in our production department, and I've seen it firsthand, that got into PC gaming through World of Warcraft as well. And his family and friends got into it, and he had a room dedicated.
Yeah.
It's just a wall of PCs with desks. And I'm like, dude, you had like 13 PCs in there. He's like, we used to have like twice as many. What? Like, that's how he got into PC gaming, you know?
So I'm planning on getting back into it and doing some live streams and stuff. I want to try to get mixed gaming back in with modding, because it's why I started modding in the beginning, and for like 6 years I've barely had any time to game. I mean, maybe minutes a week.
I definitely feel you there. Gaming was my motivation to get into computers, to just start learning to do crazy things.
Right.
Because at the time, I believe, like about 2014-ish, I got into it late, believe it or not. About 2014-ish, the hardware couldn't quite push games all the way to their max settings without, like, you know, overclocking them really aggressively and stuff. So that really motivated me to learn more and more about what I can do to make my PC perform more, and it just evolved into more customizations. And
same here. That's what it came down to. I think back then a lot of stuff was, at least games like World of Warcraft are really processor driven, so the processors were not like i9s like we have right now or anything like that. And still, it's like weird that they don't code the software properly to take advantage of all that hardware power. So overclocking those couple cores did more for playing the game like that than, you know, even other processors with multiple cores and stuff like that. So that's what kind of got me into doing it. So then I'm sitting there with, you know, a few $1,000s in computer hardware, and I'm like, I really wanted to that's what I wanted to do, was get into overclocking and water cooling.
Okay. What kind of water cooling hardware did you have at the time? Or was this before there was anything out that you could actually purchase?
Water bottles and car radiators. And
no, it wasn't anything crazy like that. It was mostly, it was already like performance PCs was around, and I was getting like stuff from there. So I think my first stuff was like EK, you know, they were older EK blocks. I mean, so I started off on this water cooling adventure, and at the time I didn't know anything about it, and I was actually going to get a Case Labs case because I was trying to find cases that had
Case Labs
ways to implement the hardware, and there was nothing out there at the time. And then I stumbled across a YouTube video of a guy who had my Cooler Master Half 932 case, and I think it's called like Toxic Acid or something like that. It is an all green build, and he cut his case apart, built a custom reservoir, and I was like, oh my God. That day I got home from work and cut my case apart. Like I started that day, and from there it's just
all right, it's decided, let's go.
Yep, instantly. And I was like,
thinking about this for a while, but now my decision has been made.
I was like, I can't believe I didn't think of this myself, and I was like so happy about it. Came home, started doing that, and then the rest is history. And I think I got that build done. It's like 2 weeks go by, and I'm like, I could do that so much better if I plan it. Like that was the thing. I got home and I was so excited. I just took the case apart, started cutting things up, painting stuff. I had no like goal in mind other than fit this water cooling stuff in here somehow. And then once I got it done, I was like, if I actually plan it from the beginning, I think I could do something really sweet. And then the next build was my gray and white build, and that one ended up on in a custom PC magazine. I was like,
serious?
oh wow, right off the bat. And I
How
was
did it
like,
get to that point? Did you just like know
sharing
the right person?
sharing on BitTech, because
Seriously?
BitTech every month has a mod of the month, and then they have a featured spot for one of the builds from the forums in the build log phase gets put into the, or you have to finish your build. So if, as long as your build log was done on BitTech and then you finish it, you have a shot at getting it into Custom PC Magazine. And I think, I'm not sure if there's a voting or if BitTech selects it, but I just happened to get called on for that, and it was really awesome. Yes, Gray Matter is the name of the build, and I think there's some stuff on my website about it, some photos and stuff like that. But after that kind of motivation just threw me to keep going. Like, okay,
sure.
Yeah.
And then right after that build, in the middle of my next ones, when I built my CNC, and that's when things started evolving, and reservoirs got a little crazier, started getting into the distribution plates, and more and more requests for that kind of thing. And that's when I kind of realized, maybe if I put my all into this, I think I can make something out of it. I mean,
that's clear. Based on the products that I see that you provide, dude, it's clear you love what you do.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, the way I think is, if I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't be able to do this, because there's been so many ups and downs and scraping by and just to make it happen.
Sure, man.
So
yeah,
if you don't have that kind of will to do it, you're going to give up quick, because you're not going to care. Most people are like, screw it, I'm just going back to work.
Oh, dude, yeah.
You know,
it definitely sounds like you really catapulted yourself up into it and just went at it.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, that's the way to do it, in my opinion, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the attitude that a lot of modders have. Is like, there are no barriers. You can't let yourself have barriers, and that's what modding is.
Yeah, figuring out a way around them, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like the first thing I modded was the first system I actually liquid cooled. It was in an NZXT Vulcan case.
Oh yeah. And
I bought two 240 millimeter radiators for it.
Okay.
And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to struggle to fit one. What am I going to do with the other? And a gentleman that was working here was like, hey, I got the tools to take care of this for you. Let's go to my house after work. So we go and get into his garage, and we cut all the front bays out of it, anything that could store a hard drive or an optical drive, and just mount radiator in the front, radiator in the top, and that's it.
That's awesome, though.
And that's kind of where working on the hardest thing first and then the easier things were made even easier later kind of came from, because that's what that was, working in this tiny little build and fitting my giant man hands inside of it to actually like manipulate the soft tubing at angles and getting the fittings to work and learning what fittings aren't great and what kind of barbs to use. And it's just
jumping in the deep end is the best way to go about it. Just get in there, and you'll know right away if you love doing it, because it's like that once you finally got it, though, it's like that feeling of that. It's like,
you look at it, you're just like, that shouldn't happen, but it's happening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's like my Fantex case now, the one that you did work on, man. And I got to show pictures at some point, but that system has two 360 millimeter radiators in it, and you're only be able to fit one in the front and then a 240 or a 280 in the top. And I made it work. And I made it look all pretty with the help of Mr. Weist here over here.
Awesome.
It was before, so Fantex has the Evolve X's now, for those that don't know, and they kind of cut the side grills out on the tops of them to allow the heat to dissipate instead of it just bouncing back down into the case. So Jim cut a nice grill in it with a sweet
trim around the edges,
acrylic trim that looks real nice. And then he made, the theme of my build is Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil. So he made, which is also on his site that you could see, he made an aluminum drilled and then acrylic filled black or red and white Umbrella logo that I put right in the center of the front.
Yeah, that came out awesome. Do you have pictures of the thing on the front? I haven't seen it with stuff on the front.
I took photos. I wish I would have brought them. I just didn't even think about it, to be honest, because we have a ton of other stuff to look at, which we'll get to eventually.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so your story kind of into what got you into modding, I think hits home with a lot of people.
I think so too.
You know?
Because there's a lot of people, what's great is there's a lot of people doing it right now, and there's like no shortage of anything. Like there's plenty of people out there that either need services or can offer services, and it's just growing and growing. And I think esports is part of the reason. Like, computer gaming getting more and more popular. You know, you spend all this money on these computers, you want them to look great. You don't, you know. I mean, some of the stock stuff is already looking cool, and that's where I think like a lot of, and I've even talked with the companies and their. Some bigger manufacturers and stuff, and they're saying that they get a lot of their inspiration from modders. I mean, even if you look at Cooler Master, they brought 8 modders out to Taiwan to help them develop the master case. Like they brought actual like 8 different computer modders from all around the world, one from each country, and they brought them to Cooler Master headquarters to work with the engineers for a couple of weeks to develop a nice modular system, something that can incorporate water cooling and stuff. So the modding drives the the innovation of the stock cases and the stock everything.
Oh,
and
Yeah.
pushes the envelope. And
Sure.
before we know it, we're going to have companies are going to have embedded water manifolds in their cases right out of the bat.
I
so
mean,
you
it's
can run your
only a few years ago, the cases didn't really have any accommodations for
water
water
cooling,
cooling.
right.
And now that's mainstream. Like, yeah, this
It
case
is.
has accommodations
Exactly.
for custom water cooling.
It's literally a part of almost every case specification, especially if I'm building somebody a custom solution and they're like, okay, I want to do a crazy liquid cooling loop. That's one of the first things I'll look at. And Zach, you can attest that even if we have to make slight modification to make things work, we'll make it work.
Yeah, I don't shy away from modifications. If I'm like, the integrated method is cool and all, but I have a better idea, I'll just go for it.
Right.
You know?
No, you just completed a liquid cooling build recently where you had to
Right.
drill holes just to get the reservoir to mount.
Yeah,
in a
I had to
spot.
Dremel out parts of the side panel and cut some holes in the back of the case to mount the reservoir next to the graphics card. Yeah. Thought it looked a lot better there than crammed up front where there wasn't really any room for it.
Right.
That's what it's all about, is making it flow better, making it look more aesthetically
No pun
pleasing.
intended.
Or from performance or aesthetics. I happen to, a lot of times I'll sacrifice performance for aesthetics just because I want it to look as best as I can make it look. But,
Sure, yeah.
or convenience, or sometimes not having to drain or not having, it bites me in the end when I really need to drain it and maintain the system. But other than that, I'm willing to do it usually.
Sorry about that. We're going to turn that off real quick.
Zach just bombed a live stream. Congratulations. So Brooke was able to grab a copy of your achromatic serpent build.
That was a build. Here, you can put that up. That was one we did for MSI.
Oh, dude.
I put I made a custom
That
motherboard
doesn't-
tray.
Dude, that looks so sweet. It doesn't even look like it was modded. It looks like a product you'd find. No, I'm serious, dude. That does not look modded at all.
So we had to use an AOI cooler, AIO cooler, all-in-one cooler, and I cut the tubes off and put my own tubes on there. And they used
These tubes. What are these tubes?
Not good enough.
So I managed to turn it into a water manifold and then go into the pump that comes with the all-in-one cooler. So we had to do that for MSI had a modding contest, and I was one of the judges, and the judges had to do each had to do a show build as well, and kind of explain the processes. So that's where that one came from. That one didn't have a whole lot of time. We had a few weeks for that one too.
Dude, that's nuts. And that's only one of your builds too. Not even all. So, which will lead us into what kind of products and services does Clockwerk Industries provide?
It started out with just seeing CNC machining, and a couple years ago, when I changed from Clockwerk Case Mods to Clockwerk Industries, I picked up a laser cutter. So I have CNC router, CO2 laser, and 3D printing. I also have vinyl cutting and things like that.
So you can literally practically do anything.
Pretty much anything. And I'm working on evolving some of the systems to offer even more capabilities. So just as I go and as financing and funding's available, I keep upgrading all the machines. And eventually I'll have some industrial machines. That's kind of one of the next steps. I got some upgrades to do to my current setup, and then it's going to be getting more into industrial machines. But we're looking at 6 figures for those. So I'm a little bit away from that, but it's right around the corner. I can't wait.
With the attitude you have, I'm sure you're going to get there.
Hopefully,
man. It sounds like almost everything you're getting out of the company that you built from the ground up, you're throwing right back into it.
Oh, I mean, I spend no money on my every single dollar that doesn't go to food or the bills goes right back to tools.
Right.
Every time. So.
I mean, worst case scenario, you could probably get away with eating some of your materials too, and probably eat all day. I mean, just saying.
A nice
Combine
bowl
the
of acrylic.
costs. It's more efficient that way.
Well, I got all these swirls from being drilled out. I guess I can just kind of pour some water into it, steam it, soften it a little bit.
Make ramen acrylic.
Rum acrylic.
But yeah, it's just continuously evolving, and it's been great. I cannot complain whatsoever. There's tough days and there's tough times, but it's all worth it in the end, completely.
James Keir on Facebook said something that's entertaining. He said, for me, it was wanting custom cables, but didn't want to spend $150 on a set. So instead, I spent $450 and did it myself to help the modding community. See, but you know what, James? That $300 delta after looking at cables that you made yourself specific to your build?
Yeah, it's way more rewarding.
Worth it.
Tenfold.
Yeah.
Worth it. In fact, I even had a conversation with Jim a while ago about how I made my own sleeve cables and I'll never do it again. It's not that it's so much difficult, but all I did was sleeve the 24-pin, the 8-pin, a 6-pin, an 8-pin, a couple of 4-pin Molex, and then maybe one SATA cable, and it took me all week.
The 24-pin is
And
the
the
killer,
cost of
though.
your fingerprint.
Yeah.
It feels like it never ends.
Yeah.
See, but I was so prepared to do it, though. I bought the depinning tool. I bought like extra pins. I bought like a huge roll of sleeving because the theme of my build was orange and black. I didn't intend it to be. I was just using an NZXT Phantom case that was orange and black, so I'm like, everything's in the case.
That's how I've done a lot of themes myself.
My high school
Just follow whatever's right there.
It's like I didn't choose this theme. The theme chose me.
Right.
So I bought like this kind of like snakeskin design, right? But regardless, probably every day I spent like 6 to 7 hours on just one cable set, sleeving it. And the deep pinning tool broke in the first day.
Yep.
So I used
those things are delicate.
I use staples a lot of times.
That's exactly what I used. I went out and bought like thick staples that you put in a staple gun, and then just bent them in one big, and I go,
it's pretty clever.
Yep.
Yeah, it worked. Just a needle nose pliers and some staples, and did it. And yeah, after about the second day, I had to wear a pair of our ESD gloves that we get issued at work for working on delicate components on our systems. And that saved my fingertips, kinda. It didn't save me from the lighter of melting the ends of it.
Shredded fingertips.
Right, because I tried the heat gun method with the wire wraps, right, to where you make it look all professional. But I couldn't get them to line up at the same height.
Oh yeah.
So it looked gaudy.
Oh yeah, that way has to be like exactly perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
dude, I couldn't do it. So what I ended up doing was I found a YouTube clip of a nice British gentleman that was like, just heat the end up with a lighter and just squeeze and then shove it in and it stays put.
Much better that way.
So I did like half of the cables.
I think I actually watched that same video when I learned how to do it.
So I did that halfway through. So like you'd look at my build and be like, man, you sleeve these? Wow, look at the rubber. And you get to the other half and be like, what happened? They're gone. And I'm like, I checked out. I don't want to do it anymore. So the amount of time and effort you got to put into this stuff is just absolutely insane, but worth it in the end. So there's my closing to my statement to you, James Gear. And now we have a statement from Michael Chadwick on Facebook that asks, can you tell a cheap build and PM a list with prices? Yeah, I probably could. So we'll do that. Just tell us. Send us a PM, Intel or AMD, whatever your preference is. AMD is going to be a better budget-conscious build for obvious reasons, because that's their focus. But you tell us what your preference is, and we'll help you out.
Sounds good.
So, speaking of your products, you did bring a plethora of your products
Yep.
with you today. So, why don't we go ahead and take a look at some of these products in depth on the close-up camera. Woo!
So we have under here, we have the Celerity reservoir I came out with about last year sometime.
And that's this white one right here, right?
Correct. And you can show that the MSI cover goes on top of it.
Wow, man. So look at this.
So,
these look like modular covers, right?
Exactly. So the covers, the insert or cover plate is sold separately. There's a couple stock variations I have of different patterns, like the slot pattern and stuff like that. But if you want different company logos or your own custom design, you can have that option as well.
Look at that, Asus.
There's a new version coming out here, hopefully I'm hoping for winter time to release it, that'll have a dual pump option, either 2 DDC pumps or 1 DDC pump in the bottom of the reservoir.
You see what Jim Dunn did for you, Asus?
The sizes will be the same, 120, 240, and 360 millimeter. So they fit wherever a fan is located.
Dude.
And down here you can actually show them those. There's just standoff kits, so if you have a radiator in a tight space, you can mount the reservoir to the radiators.
It's definitely a very clever design.
And keep the airflow still going through.
Dude, look at this.
So, yeah, that's great for the people that may not want to hack their case into a million pieces to fit your products.
Exactly.
And there's some extended ones, so if you're in a spot to where you want that airflow, gotta get that airflow.
Like a mini ITX build where you only have a tight area, you can put your 120 millimeter radiator and then you can mount the 120 millimeter reservoir off of it with the standoffs and be super compact.
See,
and
you
especially
can see the holes in the corner too, where those standoffs would go to.
Yep.
To kind of mount, dude. That's just look at the quality of this, man.
So anywhere you have a fan location, you can mount these reservoirs with simple screws and thumb screws.
See, what blows me away about this, I'll see if I can get the camera to zoom in enough to be able to kind of give you an idea. But if you kind of look at where those screws are drilled, it's clean. There's no cracks. There's no abnormalities. Nothing. This is, in my opinion, this is probably about as good as it's going to get when it comes to product quality, because you have an actual individual that cares about their products doing quality control.
Definitely.
On site. Because I think we've all been victim of products that you get where the factory kind of didn't do a good job with quality control or didn't even make it, and you deal with kind of like the imperfections. And,
and I've made it right every
rants
time.
all day about that.
Oh, definitely. Any product that's ever had an issue that's gone out, I've either had it sent back, repaired, and sent right back out, or
really?
A new one sent out right away.
Wow, that's great.
I'm pretty sure I have all 5-star rating on Google and Facebook.
I saw that. That's super impressive. It's super impressive. And even down to the detail of like the way that you have it sealed.
With the O-rings.
The O-ring that you use, the O-ring even looks, just because of how flat it is, you can tell that the seal there is just
that's
amazing.
That's one of the detailed pieces, is making sure that O-ring compresses nice and flat. That way you know it's not going to be leaking.
Right, because I unfortunately have been victim to subpar liquid cooling products that have cheap made O-rings that have been dipped in all sorts of minerals and such to keep its elasticity, and then that leaches into your loop.
Right.
And if you're somebody like me that doesn't use coolants, you just use straight distilled water, and you start noticing, why are my hardline tubes turning brown?
Right.
That should be white. That's why. So this is not something that you're ever going to experience with materials like this and a quality product like this. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And then we have up there the Asus graphics card backplate. That's just an example of the custom model. If you want like company logos and stuff, that's under the custom graphics card backplate selection on the website. Everything on this table is a retail product, and a couple of them you can get through web stores that aren't my actual site, like the Hex Gear cable combs, and you get those through Hex Gear.
Now, did you do the different color accents just as an accent, or does it serve a specific purpose for cooling? Or for
no, it's just for design, just to have a two-tone.
I like two-tone.
So you could select any 2 colors and then any kind of design.
I feel like for some reason I feel like Vanna White on Prices or on Wheel of Fortune, like, hey, Aces, two-tone colors.
So if you want a company logo, I have that under the custom option.
Oh, dude, look at that. So for all you companies out there that want to represent, you can get yourself a two-tone graphics card backplate by Clockwerk Industries at a reasonable price, might I say. It's just, I can't get over how great all these products just like look and feel, you know?
I appreciate
like this feels like sturdy. There's like, it doesn't bend. It's not flimsy. It doesn't feel flimsy.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that would be a great addition to a graphics card, especially because of the way that I feel like it would also help support the PCB. Because that's the number one reason why people would get backplates, right? Other than kind of like the auxiliary cooling on the back of the card.
Yeah, aesthetics or matching the theme, or you know, stiffen it up a bit.
Dude, this is just making me rethink any of my builds moving forward, because as somebody that builds PCs and you really get into it with like themes and everything, you start to think about like, what are all the things that are variable that I can change to really add to this?
Everything.
And because of the kinds of products and services you provide, it throw everything off the table and start from scratch.
It opens up so many doors for you could literally modify everything pretty much.
I think my favorite thing about it is the design direction. It's not overdone.
No.
Like, they're high quality, but it's also not overdone.
That's something I even like about this slot grill. That's just the minimalistic look of it too, but the two-tone really contrasts really well, and that's called the layer grill. So you could either buy it as a one piece, the top or the bottom separate if you want, but I allow it to be separate so you can mix and match colors. And there's going to be new designs coming out, new patterns like a hexagon pattern and a couple other different ones. And you can also, of course, get a custom company logo or your own company logo or any kind of text or design that you want.
And this one also has the 2-layer tone as well to it, which is great. Which I'm assuming you could probably also just do one if you just want to.
Yeah, correct. Right?
Correct. This is a really nice accent. I mean, I would get away with 3 or 4, regardless of how obnoxious that look. I'd just be like, hey Jim,
you're a crazy man, Joe.
I want all the rainbows. You know, there's
maybe
somebody,
an RGB build.
Yeah. There's somebody I follow on Facebook that just recently did like a rainbow build. Like everything is painted like all the unicorn colors.
Dave, I think.
Yeah. Dave from Alpha Cool, and he just all of the colors that he incorporates. It's such a beautiful build, by the way, Dave. Fantastic. You did a great job with it. Could you imagine something like that?
Yeah, layered up.
Yeah, layered up. Like it wouldn't matter how obnoxious it would look. It would look beautiful just because of what it is, you know. And once again, it's because of the quality and the services you provide that even make that possible. Something like this, and dude, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
And let's take a look at the 120 mil too while we're at it. I know it's pretty much the same thing, but it still gives people kind of an idea.
I like the black and white. I'm actually going to be using this on my. I have a Pro 6. Case that I'm working on to finish up here, and I'm going to try to fit the Solaria reservoir in there. And
I can't wait to see that thing like in action.
The reservoir?
Do that reservoir, yeah.
I can't wait to get the new revision out with the embedded pumps, because that's kind of the best way to go, because then people can have a nice compact reservoir. So you'll have a 120 millimeter reservoir capable of 2 DDC pumps embedded in it, and it can fit a 120 millimeter fan will be. So it really allows things to get compact.
Tend to, gravitate more towards the compact builds. That's
a lot of people do. It's just so much more functional.
Sure. No, it's great. And even though it's not so much compact, but I always love the simplicity of a pump mount to a reservoir. It's less runs, it's less barbs, it's less maintenance, less that could possibly leak when you leak test it. And that's pretty much what I'm doing with mine now.
And these reservoirs are the perfect size that 2 DDC pumps literally fit side by side.
Dude, I noticed that. Yeah. I would want to do something like maybe we'll do, and that's something we'll talk about a little bit later, but we have some neat ideas that we can work on together, I'm sure.
Definitely.
And we'll get to that segment here in a bit, but I also want to, since we're giving these away, and again, make sure that you're sending those comments if you want to win some, I want to take a look at some of these combs, man. These combs are just...
These are the Overkill PC's knuckle combs. They're made out of 6061 aluminum, CNC machined. All the holes are chamfered.
See it.
If you come on, focus.
Right.
Yeah, aluminum combs are my favorite for sure.
All the holes are chamfered so it doesn't snag on your cables, and feeding all your cables in there. You can fit them in there with the pin on. The holes are 4 millimeter, so it fits with like premium sleeves, like Telio sleeve from Mainframe Customs, and it's like it fits nice and snug, perfect with the more premium sleeves.
These just feel and look so much better than all of the cheap cable combs you get out there from competitors, dude.
Definitely.
Like 100%. These
they're solid. You can't bend them with your hands or anything.
Right. We've tested a lot of these being a system builder for quality, and we basically just picked the ones that didn't break the most.
Yeah.
Like they're durable. Don't get me wrong, but there were some that just from peeling like the cover off, they would just snap.
Yep.
So for anybody out there that's interested in a build, don't be surprised if you start to see some of these combs make their way into AVA systems, because that is a very real possibility.
That's awesome. And then that's the next one. That's the Clockwerk Industries rake comb.
These are nuts. These are my favorite because for anybody who's a lazy builder like myself, and you want to take shortcuts, but you want it to look good. These are great because you'll oftentimes have a lot of cables that you don't really see both sides of the combs, right?
And they won't break.
No, they will not break.
You know, when you're trying to fit in combs that are open-ended like that, always you're going to have to buy extra because teeth are going to break off.
That's the part that makes me happy, especially when you're working with the stiffer cable combs.
It's worth it to pay a couple bucks to not have to deal with that. Yep, definitely. And then the newest addition to all the cable management and aluminum products is being able to anodize. So I have a new anodizing setup, and I'm able to. I'm starting with black now, and I'm going to branch out into some other colors. I put a poll up on a Facebook group to see kind of more,
there it is,
what the more popular colors are for. So I'm going to start dipping into that and offering different colors for the aluminum anodizing.
Yeah, dude, the color aspect, to be able to, that's important.
Colored, aluminum combs for sure.
I never would have thought that, dude, moving forward. Like when I first started really getting into like PC building, I never would have thought color themes were going to be as important as they are now.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was a great accent, but usually it was just like the build, the quality, the wire management. Now it's colors. Like, hey, man, like the little accent you did here, like even for like the backplate. Like, what if you have very little to no red in a build, but then you have a backplate like this where you can just delicately see that accent, and it makes such a huge,
big time,
huge,
100%,
huge difference. Let me tell you, it's a huge difference. And these, now, admittedly, somebody who thought I knew a lot about modding, I clearly don't, in cable management, these
are available at Hex Gear. You can order them right on their website. They are basically for the cables to go in and duck right back out.
Right.
So that might be better to contrast it. So those go up in front of your graphics card, so the cables can come in between your graphics cards and then double back over and plug in, make everything really neat and nice right around your graphics cards. They also work around your 24-pin and 8-pin.
These feel like, in my opinion, one of the most important pieces to a wire management build ever.
They really, Hans-Peter Saul is the designer, and the build he did this on are some of the most fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to use some of those because that's definitely a cable management tactic I employ quite often.
Right. So. Yeah. And I'm just going to say with the utmost respect to people that are watching, that if you're watching this and you don't have anything like this in your build, what is wrong with you? Buy them now, because I will. Legit. I'm probably going to put in an order for these because these are amazing. And then, of course, you have these.
That's one of the 24-pin ones.
For if you don't have 4 cards, because unless you're a professional, what's the point of 4 cards in SLA? But RTX, we'll get to that later. But still, these are just so badass, dude. I can't believe here's another option. I can
this
go for
little
days.
8-pin guy.
I can go for days. Do you want to go for days on these cable columns? We can go for days, buddy. Round and round we go. Next.
We can go over the panel mount.
Oh yes. I kind of feel like panel mounts or Panama? Panel mounts. Panel mounts. We'll do clear.
He went there.
Panel mounts. So silver, white, and aluminum. There's your aluminum.
So the aluminum ones have a machined edge and then a brush side finish, and then the acrylic ones are just CNC machine cast acrylic.
Again, everything is nice and rounded. There's nothing sharp, nothing I can cut my fingers on. So if any of my children get a hold of it, I'm not going to scream across the room at them because their life isn't in danger. Nice, smooth edges, man. The quality's still there, just like the rest of your stuff. Dude. Now this is something that could be used primarily in a setting to where, which is also something I struggled with my build, where you have a really sharp bend for the 24-pin behind the firewall.
Do you have my website pulled up? If you go to the cable management section, you can see a great example of how these are used.
Okay, so
but we'll go to that afterwards if you want.
Yeah, well, I'll just kind of ramble on a little bit so we can try to get to the website to show that, because that is likely to be a very good example, and we'll show that and see what these can do. But basically, just to continue to jabber on until we get there.
That one right there, the Hans Peter saw.
There it is, yeah. There it is.
I don't know, it's a thumbnail, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull it up.
It's fine, take your time. You just take your time, I'll keep talking. So, the back of the firewall, if you have a really sharp bend for a 24-pin, these are going to allow you to mount it to the back of your case and then keep that bend's integrity.
Yeah.
So you keep it looking nice.
It keeps everything nice and tidy up the back of your case, and it's especially nice with these cases now that have tempered glass in the front and back, so people are able to see into the back of your case now.
Right, and see with this one, you can keep it nice and tidy-whitey.
Yeah. I like glass back panels, but when you get into
you need to have
products
nice
like these are very useful.
Definitely.
Very useful, and that's a curse to my case because it's glass panels on both sides. So if the wire management isn't there in the rear, you feel like a terrible human being. And typically, you just zip it up and call it a day. Yeah. But now people are like, "What's on the back?" Don't worry about what's on the back, all right? That's not what you can see. You're not supposed to see that. But Fantex is like, they're going to see it. And you're like, why would you do this to me? I bought your product. Support me. So then there's this black one too I didn't showcase.
That's one of the HPS versions.
For being a re-re.
That has the closed hole so you can sleeve those in while you're building your system, while you're sleeving your cables.
That is insane.
These ones don't have the mounting holes on them yet, but all of these mount with an M4 threaded screw, 2 screws for each cable comb and each panel mount.
That's a common thread type too.
I just put them all up on my store now, or I'm putting them up on my store probably over this weekend. I have the inventory now, so you'll be able to grab the screws right when you buy the combs, so you don't have to go to the hardware store after buying them.
See, admittedly, I forgot to put both of these up here on as an example.
There's a good con to see the difference between the two.
Well, not just that, but I even looked down at the table and didn't notice them because, black table and black combs. I was like, ha ha ha, didn't happen. So I'll hold these up here just for a little bit longer for people to see, and we'll get different angles on it so you can kind of see the depths and the design of everything. These holes, dude, the drill work on these holes.
Yeah, all the holes are drilled to M4 or 4mm. That way it will work with the higher quality cable sleeving like Telios, or it will also work with some of the more low-cost sleeving options where the cables are thin. Since all they're doing is routing the cables, it's better to be oversized than undersized or have to offer multiple sizes. So we just went with the one that's gonna work with the biggest sleeve out there. So I'm pretty sure you can actually use even 16 gauge wire with high quality sleeve, and you should still be able to feed your pinned cable through the holes.
That's so crazy. That's crazy, man. That's cray is what the young kids say nowadays, and I don't know why. So the next question I was going to ask you is what makes your products and services unique, and clearly we can see what makes your products unique. So let's talk a little bit more about your services.
It's mostly about being able to have affordable costs. You know, a lot of people, I get a lot of common questions or common thinking is that this water manifold is going to be $800, $1,000, and really the range of water manifolds is more so from $200 to $400. It really depends how I mean, we can make you $1,000 water manifold, but it's going to be absolutely insane. And we're talking polished metals and custom painting and anodizing. You would have to have every single kind of, custom service embedded into it to be that much money. But normally it's the cost, like double the cost of a production water block is about the average cost of a water manifold.
Wow.
Now, I'm hoping to be able to wholesale things like this in the future as well. So,
sure. No, I'd love to see it wholesale, man. And
that way,
there's
like,
a lot that the community stands to gain by your products becoming wholesale. In my
certain
opinion.
things like that where I can find a case that's one of the more popular cases. I think there's another company that just tried to start doing that, like Borrow or something, where they just have a water manifold that's the same, they mass produce it, and it fits in this case, and then you can use it to help clean things up.
Right.
To me, it's a more of a custom kind of thing, so it's kind of a little more difficult to do. I'll probably focus mostly on the reservoirs to be able to wholesale those and things like that. But
sure.
So it's basically having low overhead and being able to have affordable costs, and quality is my number one thing. Like if I wouldn't want it in my show build, it's not going to ship out. So.
Sure. No, and that's great. That's to be able to have those kinds of quality standards for yourself and then hold it to what you're actually creating. Like that's the best thing you could possibly do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Best thing you could do.
I would feel terrible if I just sent out garbage. I couldn't do it.
We're the same way here, dude. I think that's why we love working with you and with the projects.
No, I can tell walking through this place, you guys are all about quality, 100%.
Yeah, that's like
the most important thing.
That's a quick way to work your way up too in a place of importance.
There we go. That's a great example of using the Panama combs.
Dude, look at that. Look at how awesome that is. Dude, it'd be impossible for you to get that without panel mount.
Exactly, and the ones used in this video, in this image, are a 24 pin plus 8 pin, so it actually you can run 2 cables through 1 comb.
And then split it.
Exactly.
Dude,
it keeps things so tidy.
That's so crazy. So Tufu's on Facebook. Hello, Tufu.
Tufu, my main rig right now is on a Primo Chill Praxis wet bench, so it's all good, man.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff, and I agree.
You make the best of what you got.
No, that's how remodding starts, right?
I'm working on my YouTube channel and trying to get more content out there. And some of the stuff I want to do is showing what you could do with very minimal tools and very minimal money. Like,
dude, that would be huge.
It's a lot of people think, they see a lot of my videos are CNC machining parts and all this. You don't need that stuff. My first 3 builds were not done with any of those fancy tools. I had my dad's old beat up woodworking tools, and that's what I use to get started. So you don't need anything fancy. You just need the will to want to do it, and you can.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be a little more creative.
Exactly.
You don't have all the tools,
That's
but
it.
It
helps.
It's like that modern mindset. You'll find a way.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. 100%.
If there's a mod, there's a way. There was a time when men fought with mods, and nothing but mods. So, kind of segueing into what you plan to do for YouTube, what kind of plans do you have in store now for Clockwerk Industries?
Continuing to upgrade equipment so I can be able to wholesale some products, launch new products. This new reservoir coming out, the Solaritia R2 with the embedded pumps. As I upgrade my machines, as they upgrade, I'm going to be coming out with more water cooling gear. I have a CPU block, and then possibly GPU,
CPU
but
block?
Definitely CPU block.
CPU block.
Yep.
You're coming out with your own CPU block.
Yes, sir. So that's on the horizon here.
I know what I'm pre-ordering.
Hopefully the spring that'll be ready to go
performs.
for sure, because the new machine should be up and running by this fall, end of this fall, and then I don't know if I can get the ball rolling really quick. Maybe the end of this year I can launch or get some prototypes out there for review samples and stuff like that.
I may be completely ignorant on the subject, but I've not heard of a modder coming out with his own CPU block.
I haven't either.
Oh, dude,
Not since before they were made.
Not since the first modders made blocks 10 years ago.
Right.
Which is huge, because there's only one manufacturer off the top of my head that gives you an ability in collaboration with a reseller to make like your own kind of design modded block, and that's EK and Performance.
Yeah. Where you can get the little customized pieces for it.
Yep. And that's something we used to do previously on a lot of our builds. Decided not to for a couple of other reasons, but still to actually have an alternative to that or a competitor even, like that's huge.
Yep.
So that's all on the horizon right there. It's just getting the machinery up to the point where I can sustain a lot of metal cutting. That's where I'm branching off into. I can handle a lot of stuff now, and that's right around the corner. It's like this fall, everything should be up and running with that. And then getting more content out on my YouTube channel. That's like one of the main things I want to try to do.
Sweet, dude. I caught your modcast. It was awesome.
That's one of the main things too.
I think it was the first one you did even, where you were just like, man, I'm sitting here in my garage with this Lamborghini.
In my knowledge.
My book of knowledge. No, just talking about like how far you've come and that your blood, sweat, and tears goes in everything you do. And
that's what I want to keep that podcast like too, just being real in the shop and talking about everything going on. And
absolute best thing you could do, and especially in conjunction with the videos you want to do where you're like, here's a paper towel tube, and here's some super glue, and
MacGyver.
And here's a low melting point metal. I'm going to show you how to make a water block. To be able to do that, that'd be so awesome. And kind of leading into that, I think it's going to give us and yourself the ability to do a lot more exciting projects together.
Definitely.
Which I am super pumped for.
Me too, man.
We have a couple of ideas in the works that we'll be working with some other media outlets to get out there, and you'll see a lot more work from Mr. Jim Weist here and Clockwerk Industries with our builds.
Awesome.
So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
It's really a matter of just what direction we want to go. The possibilities are endless. You know what I mean?
Awesome, man.
So,
I agree.
I want to remind people that to get your comments in before we come to a close here with the live stream, because we are approaching the end of the stream.
Comment.
Comment, chameleon. You gotta win the panel code. So just to go over some quick news, AVA news like we typically do. We have our VR bundle that's still going on until the end of the year. Again, the purchase of anything that is VR oriented and related, you get a couple of non-VR gaming titles and VR titles as well, which are still relevant and fun to play. So get that in. The Intel Update bundle is only going until the end of this month. That's 9/30. So if you want to take advantage of $610 worth of hardware that you're getting for free with a product that could very well cost $600 in itself, you might want to jump on it now. So stop procrastinating and get an Intel Optane. Or you could get something such as one of AMD's Ryzen processors, which also comes with a bundle of hardware as well. And apparently my watch is deciding to talk to me on air.
It never ends.
It needs to speak what it's spoken to.
Oh.
So, what's my favorite color? What's my favorite color? Oh man, purple, because aliens wear hats.
I would say gray.
Black, for sure.
Never would have guessed, Zach.
I know, it's not like 95% of my shirts are black or anything.
You wore the gray shirt, and I didn't know if it was a strategic choice or if you were trying to blend into the background to do some comedic
I don't know.
stuff.
As soon as I sat down at the set and just saw it, I was like, well, I made the wrong choice today.
My favorite color is actually blue. It's not purple, if you want to know. But and it's funny because I've not done any blue themed builds ever. Maybe because it's like
I've been wanting to for a while. Blue and white is what I've been really wanting to do one.
Dude, blue and white's a sweet combination.
Yeah.
I'd want to do like a
just like the AVA colors up on the screen there.
Ooh,
I like that.
I sense an idea. We'll talk about that later. We're not going to reveal too much though.
Blue and white's definitely a nice color combination. We've done that before with the Jotunheim.
Which I fought long and hard for it to be White Wolf, and then we met Mall Cosplay, who actually does all the cosplay officially for CD Projekt Red, and he looked at it and he said that to me. He was like, "Should have been the White Wolf, yeah." I'm like, "Oh!" But Jotunheim was still, I mean, that was still a good name. Now, I'm not knocking it. It was just an idea I had, and people were just kind of like, So, I think we're approaching that time, though, aren't we?
Yep.
We're going to select a winner, somebody who's going to get to win the aluminum knuckle combs and then the acrylic panel mounts. So, I mean, 2 winners, I guess, right? We're going to do 2. So, we're going to give away the acrylic panel mounts first, and that is going to be to A-Dubs from YouTube.
Congrats.
So, congratulations, A-Dubs.
Congrats.
You just won yourself some aluminum or some acrylic panel mounts. Make sure you PM us your shipping address and your name so we can get that shipped out to you. That's not a problem. So, who's going to be the winner for the aluminum knuckle cones?
Oh, man.
Who is it?
Is that it? James Kier on Facebook.
Good job, James. Which is, I mean, that's actually kind of perfect because you were just talking about I jumped $450 into my pre-sleeve cables, and now you get yourself some sweet Clockwerk Industries aluminum knuckle combs.
James has been
do more stuff without dumping
for a long
more
time too.
Has he? There you go.
I've known him since the beginnings, pretty much. So
check that out. Meant to be. So everybody, I want to thank you for attending the AVA live stream this week with our special guest,
Jim Weist from Clockwerk Industries.
It's been great.
Again, feel free to stay tuned every week for any new updates, any discussions. Next week, do keep in mind that we are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have our live stream on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. So make sure you mark your calendars, you set yourself a reminder. Also, feel free to like and or subscribe to our future videos and to our channel. And you have yourself a wonderful weekend. Again, Joe from AVA.
Jim from Clockwerk Industries.
And I'm Zach. Thanks for
See
tuning
ya.
in.
Take it
Bye.
easy, guys.
Peace.